Today with us, we have Rishi, Garg, partner of Mayfield. And we have Ramneek Gupta, managing director and co-head at Citi Venture. And we have Randy Williams, the founder and CEO of Keiretsu Forum. First of all, I'm going to give you each one 30 seconds to introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, my name is Rishi Garg. I am a partner at the Mayfield Fund. We are a 48-year-old venture capital firm based here in Menlo Park, right down the street. I cover the consumer sector. Most recently, I ran corporate development and strategy at Twitter. Before that, I was an early executive at Square, the mobile payments company, first head of biz dev, first head of corp dev. And earlier in my career, spent time at MTV Networks, Google, and a company that I started and sold in the mid-2000s. And today I focus on mostly just the emerging consumer applications, and that's really it.
Hi everyone, my name is Ramneek Gupta. I co-lead the venture investing efforts at Citi Ventures, the strategic venture arm of Citi Group. Our charter is to help drive innovation at Citi, and we do so, at least our team does so, by partnering with startups in the ecosystem here to get them connected with relevant Citi businesses. And the best case outcome for us is a commercial relationship with Citi and our startup, which leads to acquisition of new capabilities by Citi, our startups getting early customer traction and a big reference customer. And hopefully when those two things work well, our investment in these companies tends to do well. So we invest across stages. We do, in terms of check sizes, we do 2 to 3 million on the low end to up to 15 million on the high end. We focus on all of the key themes in financial services and FinTech, as well as digital media, digital commerce, payments, and IT. So big data, analytics, machine learning, info security, and cloud.
Thank you, Diana. My name is Randy Williams, proud member of Keiretsu Forum and also founder and CEO. We are a famous sushi restaurant here in Menlo Park. Okay, we're fortunate to have 52 locations. I've licensed the rights globally, and we have 50 fundings a month globally. Here in Northern California, I'm still chapter president. I just love our community of 365 members. We have about 35 fundings a year locally, and then we have a lot of cross-border. Either they travel or come in to commercialize here in America. For instance, our Indian chapters of their first 70 fundings this last 2 years, 50 came here for commercialization and more capital and resources. Additionally, we have a small, we're on our third fund, both real estate, because our members like real estate, and also a VC fund. That's up to 40 million. And that has 190 LPs, and those are primarily members who don't have time to participate, engage, and get involved because they're busy, obviously, with their corporate jobs and or their other entrepreneurial jobs.
Well, thank you. And we're going to talk about the current technology, which is going to bring the great impact for future. So Rishi, talking about the current technology, just imagine next 10 or 20 years, and what are those technologies are going to impact our future?
Sure. So, I think it's a little bit of a challenging question, I think, in this moment of time, to pick a single enabling technology that's going to have a single impact on the future. Because what we're seeing right now is that so many enabling technologies are working together to change the way that consumers interact and interact with institutions, interact with themselves, and that the implications of that are going to be pretty profound down the road. So I'll give you an example. It's actually better, I think, to talk about how do we see the world evolving and what varieties of technology sort of help to do that. For example, we think a lot of Mayfield about autonomous vehicles. We were the Series A investor in Lyft. And along the way, we've learned a lot. And we're also big Series A investors in semiconductor companies in our history. We're the first backers of 3Com and companies like that. We also spend a lot of time on infrastructure software. So those things come together to create some really interesting new platforms like autonomous vehicles. So if you think 10 years from now, well, so many enabling technologies will come together to sort of make autonomous vehicles a reality. And we think that's very much a likely reality, one that will fundamentally change the way a lot of us live, work, and play. When you think about the enabling technologies for that, we're going to see everything from full-scale chipset redesign that's happening now to the applications of ML and AI to help with routing, to the use of big data as inputs to machine learning and AI to enable a smart routing, to enable camera vision to help the cars see. LiDAR and radar are two sort of important components of that. We're seeing a lot of companies today that are at the first stages of what those kinds of systems will be. And then once you actually stop having to drive, you change the car to a moving living room, and all of the things we now associate with our social or media experiences we think will start to change. So there's a whole play for autonomous vehicles around the future of television. If you take some of the same enabling technologies, they all apply to the future of commerce, which is another key area for us. In the world in the future, if you've ever seen the movie Minority Report, the experience where consumers walk into a physical establishment, are recognized by face, have their identity sort of front and center, and then are given a personalized experience. Well, those all use exactly the same sort of enabling technologies, whether it's the camera vision to recognize the consumer, the big data that enables us to, that powers a recommendation engine, and the ML and AI that does that. What we're seeing is that several enabling technologies in this moment in time are going to create not just one kind of new platform, but several new platforms. And in a lot of ways, we feel like it's the most sort of prolific time to be an investor or be an entrepreneur, because even though mobile is now mature as a platform, which drove the second sort of internet boom, if you'll call it that, when we look ahead to what the next platform is being, we're actually not just seeing one, we're seeing 5 or 6. And all of those are going to be powered by these enabling technologies. So that's sort of the framing that we use when we think about what life will be like 10 years from now, and how do we invest ahead of that.
Thank you. So Ramneek, you've been a VC for many years and focus on FinTech industry. And for now, if you choose to invest on the technology company, what do you most likely to invest? And can you give us an example and why?
Yeah. So let me build on what Rishi said, right? But with a FinTech lens, given what I do all day long. So we think about the future of FinTech in the context of 3 broad trends. To be cheeky about it, it's ABC, right? There's AI, ML, there is blockchain, and there is cloud. And all of these things will have dramatic impact on banking and financial services, right? So when you think about AI, ML, we are pretty fortunate and unfortunate at the same time. We're very fortunate because we have a lot of the data that's necessary to make these things work. And financial services data is not that easily available, right? But unfortunate because we don't have the talent to leverage all of this. So a lot of the challenges or opportunities for startups is to help financial services companies sort of leverage machine learning and AI in our world. So that could be front-end personalization and predicting what the customer needs, all the way to back-end on compliance, to how you do anti-money laundering and protect against that, to fraud, to robotic process automation, etc. So the way banking is done will change dramatically from mostly a human, intermediated process to a predominantly, technology-driven business, and we are heading that way. So that's the A of the ABC. Blockchain, because I think by and large what's happening is the transactions are becoming almost 0 and 0. I call it atomic transactions. Transactions are becoming smaller and smaller and smaller in size and more frequent at the same time. When that happens, you need networks that can process these transactions with 0 marginal cost, right? It should not cost anything to process an additional transaction. And today's networks are absolutely not built that way when it comes to payment processing or any value transfer. So our networks through which we transfer value have to change dramatically, and blockchain is as good a technology as any other out there to leverage for that purpose. And cloud, only because I think the value of cloud has already been demonstrated in most other verticals, but not in financial services. By and large, most of our infrastructure is owned by it's in-house, it's behind the firewalls, and Citigroup today has in double-digit number of massive data centers around the world that we still run. So we are in the business of actually running our own data centers in addition to providing financial services products and services. So that will change very rapidly in the next 4 or 5 years in financial services. And when that changes, the agility with which we deliver products, the quality of these products, etc., will change. So any one of those verticals or any one of those vectors, if you could follow through, there are lots of opportunities that we would love to invest in.
Sounds like endless possibilities for blockchain. It could be the next drive force for the industry revolution, right?
Yes, I think so.
So Randy, I heard that you just invested a life science company, which is very successful, right? Can you share with us some about that?
Well, it was a while back. It's just we've had a reverse IPO this last several months because biotech space was there wasn't a lot of liquidity, as you may know, last year. And so, hot news today. But, we invested at $4 million pre, and we had $1 million. We put $14 million in over the years, but it's so far. And a lot of us like impact investing. My wife and I have made 54 investments at Keiretsu Forum. We try to move toward impact investing, hopefully doing good. This is solving MRSA issues, young kids with cystic fibrosis globally. But if you look at the call symbols today, SVRA, we're at 220 million market cap. So it's a nice, 20x for us. Liquidity is probably going to be the next 6 weeks for us. So there's a lock right now. So I'm very happy with that. But Diana, getting back to the question, I polled my members today. We had a forum today in the East Bay, tomorrow Silicon Valley, but I asked out 150 people, my most prolific investors in the room, members have made over 25 investments the last 10 years. I said, what do you like in the next 10 years? So in this order, autonomous transportation, number 2, genomic-based life science, AI and deep learning, precision med, and digital currency. And then I have another 10 more to go, but that's the top 5 as far as my most prolific investors. And the whole spirit of Keiretsu, I'm drafting off smarter people than me, and so I usually they take the lead, but there's a lot of very cool things happening.
Well, but talking about life science is going to be the technology that impact our future. Just imagine you can live for 200 years, right? Maybe 300, who knows, in the future. But for life science, it's not like other technology. You have the mission of human healthcare and also commercialization. There's so many challenges for that. So what do you see about that?
Well, you can see me. I have gray hair, and so a lot of us are members of Keiretsu Forum care about longevity, but we care about quality of life with longevity. So we're always looking toward the panacea where we can invest, where we can have quality of life, but longer aspects of life. And so cancer, obviously, we're looking, solving the holy grail there. And we get a lot of great applications in cancer. But once we will solve that problem, probably in the next 5-6 years, investing in that space is something we're very concerned about.
Yeah, and actually I'll add to that too. At Mayfield, we were one of the first backers of Amgen, Genentech, and Intuitive Surgical, which sort of were companies that started the biotech revolution 40 years ago. And today we've reinvigorated our healthcare practice pretty dramatically, in part because unlike what he was just describing, where biotech was a primary means of making a big impact in healthcare, we're seeing now that the applications of technologies such as chipsets, software, big data, data science, AI, ML, et cetera, can drive meaningful changes in applications that can be used to alter the way that we drive healthcare outcomes. We're spending a lot of time right now, for example, on computational biology for drug discovery. So these ultimately become things that not only, now these are really hard companies to build, because whether you're doing something like that or you're doing something like an application that's helping to improve health outcomes by changing user behavior, you have to be really incredible from a software perspective. You also have to be really incredible from a go-to-market perspective, not only be great at acquiring relationships with consumers, but also with enterprises, often, whether it's payers or employers. And then you've got FDA. So it takes a particularly, I think, wily and committed entrepreneur to build a big business in these categories. But a lot of entrepreneurs we're seeing, especially entrepreneurs that are coming out of, have had some success before and want to take on a big project, are entering this category, which is actually really exciting as their second or third sort of campaign.
Rishi, you just mentioned about the big data. Actually, regarding big data, then this contains so many personal information in the big data. So what's the problem you see in this industry, and what's the solution for that?
What's the problem?
Maybe the safety and people really worry about?
The biggest challenge is, or one challenge that we don't probably talk about enough, is that the big four consumer companies have an unprecedented level of information about all of our perversions. And so far they've been benevolent gods, but we're really trusting that founder-led companies like Amazon and Google and Facebook will continue to do good things with that data. Luckily, those companies have strong cultures. Luckily, so far, the alignment with business objectives and the use of all this personal information has been there. But I think over time, and we're starting to see sort of the reaction of this. Consumers, I think, even though they are unprecedentedly giving away information, they may start to realize that there are some structural costs to that. I also do think that we're in a moment of time. The level of power because of data contained at the large technology companies essentially makes them an oligopoly, which we've probably not had in this company in terms of power since the antitrust era, since Standard Oil, and it's probably even more profound than that. So the natural outcome of that, I think, will be regulation. And I think we're just starting to see the beginnings of regulation of consumer data platforms, as I would call Facebook and Google and other places, as utilities. It'll be a messy sort of 10 or 20 years while that goes down, but I expect that to happen.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, it's not a fun place to be in. So financial services has always been heavily regulated from that perspective on data and what you can do with that data, and it slows things down. So there's just a tremendous amount of friction and gravity that comes with that, and in complying with all of this, it's a lot of opportunity for companies as well on the other side to help these companies manage the security concerns, but it slows innovation dramatically. And so hopefully they can get away by keeping the culture intact and not get to the point where they have to be regulated to maintain the safety and soundness of the system.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Rishi just mentioned that we can always continue believing those big companies. But regarding the blockchain, any company, even a small company, they can go global immediately. So what do you see this trend for the blockchain?
That's absolutely true. So, I think it overlays a globally distributed value exchange system on top of internet, where if everything, if a lot of there are a lot of problems to be solved, but if they're solved well, then marginal cost of transaction processing can be near zero, and it's a powerful network to be leveraging or building the next generation, SWIFTs of the world on, right? So we have been thinking a lot about how do we create interbank and interfinancial institution networks leveraging these capabilities and technologies. So a lot of our testing and building and POCs are in that direction. Some of them will see the light of the day soon. One of our companies in this space called Chain.com, is a platform on which you can build these apps very quickly. And they have been leveraged by Visa recently to create a global B2B payments network for small, medium businesses. So Visa did not have a ability to transfer money for small, medium businesses. It's too expensive to do it through the credit card network, especially globally. So that was not a solution. They actually built or have built out a network on top of blockchain using Chain.com's infrastructure. So Visa trying to do that and making that available to SMBs, and the costs are nominal. It's $1 per transaction, so almost nothing in terms of relative to what it costs on a credit card network, etc. So I think the possibilities are endless, from just payment processing to any collaborative sort of effort between multiple entities within the financial services ecosystem. So all the exchanges, all the the Equifax of the world, these sort of businesses could be built on blockchain going forward, and we are testing a lot of those ideas.
Yeah, blockchain can be a big topic. We can talk forever. and it's really disrupted the dominant, the credit cards and FinTech, So we got only maybe 1 minute left. So Randy, would you like to give us a summarize about what we talked about? The technology currently is going to bring the big impact for the future, and how can we get ready for that?
Well, I like to underscore, I think it's more powerful. Capital is critically important, and whether it's milk to grow these companies, but resources are even I think, to underscore that, and anybody who's ever been to Keiretsu Forum has heard me say that. And so we created a LinkedIn network 4 years ago for our portfolio companies. We have a portfolio now over 1,200 companies, and Keiretsu Capital, which is our top-off fund, we have 94 companies, and they are reaching out globally now. So if there's a resource in Bangalore, a resource in Istanbul, they're grabbing for those resources to grow their companies. And so my vision in the future is to really get closer to the 100 strategics around the world that can really help these companies with what I call cradle to greatness. Yes, we're funding early stage companies, but the greatness is obviously the exit. So again, when companies get funded, we really want them to enjoy the global aspects of obviously of our network. And there's a lot of great capital out there, but resources can be just as powerful.
Okay, so thanks to the organizer F50 and the wonderful panelists today. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.